Hello everyone, I am Nick Harrison with Rocky River Woodworks, and today I'm going to show you how to make cabinet doors. So this video, I'm going to just focus on specifically making cabinet doors. There's three main components: the rails, the stiles, and then the center panel. That's what I call it. That's what I'm going to refer to in this video. I'm not going to get into material because it really doesn't matter. You can make it out of whatever material you would like. The rail, just kind of an introduction. The rails are the part of the cabinet doors that go horizontally. Think of a rail that you grab, and the stiles go up and down. Now, what we need to do, we're going to make two doors here because there's two openings in the cabinet. The thickness of the rails and stiles is going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. That's what I'm going to use. I think that's pretty common. It's also very easy to use simply because when you buy material like at a big box store or milling it down, you can, most time you buy material, it's in 3/4 of an inch thick. So, making the measurements, first we're going to start with the rails. What I do is measure the opening of your cabinet. So in this case, the opening of my cabinet is 13 3/8. Add 1 inch. The reason is because I want a 1/2 inch overhang on each side. I want a 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. You add that to 13 3/8, you get 14 3/8. So our rails are going to be 14 3/8 of an inch long. They're going to be 3/4 of an inch thick, and then as far as how wide, that is completely up to you. I'm going to make them 1 3/4 inches, probably 2. I'm going to make them 2 inches. Let's just say 2 inches, make things easy. So I know that I need to rip down some stock that is 2 inches wide, and it needs to be 14 3/8 of an inch long. And we're going to focus on just one door. I'm making 2 doors here, so I'm going to double it. But let's say for one door. So I need 2 pieces that are 14 3/8 of an inch long. Now, we know that our width of the pieces is going to be 2 inches, and I'm going to have a 1/2 inch overhang here. So that leaves me with 1.5 inches in the cabinet. We're going to double that for top and bottom. That's 3 inches. So what I need to do now is measure my opening here. My opening up and down is about 38 7/8 of an inch. Minus 3 inches, that's 35 7/8. And then we're going to add back 1 inch. I'll show you why in a minute. So we're going to do 36 7/8. We need 2 pieces of those, and then we need 2 pieces that are 14 3/8 of an inch. I made one small mistake that I mentioned earlier. The total dimension here is 38 7/8. What we need is to add 1 inch to that, because we're doing a 1/2 inch overhang. That's 39 7/8, minus the 3 inches for the 1.5 inches left, and then add 1. So basically, you could just take 39 7/8 minus 2 inches. So your overall dimension minus 2 inches. So we need 37 7/8. All right, the next thing we need to do is to cut a groove. Now, since we're using 3/4 inch material, we need to use a 1/4 inch groove cutting bit on the router. The way the groove needs to be set up, I actually have a template here, tongue and groove, that I just keep in my shop. And that way I can lay it on my router table and set the router bit to the exact height that I need it. If you do not have a template, here's the way that you set it up. Set your router bit as 3/4 of an inch. You're using a 1/4 inch bit. So the bottom quarter will be a groove, the top quarter will be a groove, and then the tongue is the center quarter. Tweak it, get it set up, fine tune it to where you want it, and then, like I said, make a template and keep it. So I have a groove that accepts the tongue. All right, we're going to make the grooves. The groove template needs to be all the way on all 4 pieces, basically, both rails and both stiles. The groove. The tongue, the only place we're going to use it is on each end of the stiles. Let's go over to the router table and we'll cut the grooves. One thing for me that I forgot to mention that is worth mentioning is that the depth of the groove into the material needs to be 1/2 of an inch. That's what we're going to use just to make math easy. So when you set your fence, make sure that the groove is cutting 1/2 inch into the material, nothing more, nothing less. Let's cut some grooves. Now that our grooves are cut, we're going to raise up our router bit to cut a groove on each side of this on the end, coping it like this. All right, so we have our grooves cut in our rails and we have our grooves cut in our stiles, and then the stiles also have the 1/2 inch tenon that is a 1/4 inch wide. Now we need to figure out the size of our plywood center panel, and the way we're going to figure that out is the length of it needs to be the entire length of one of your stiles. So from the edge of the tenon all the way to the edge of the tenon, which is 37 7/8. As far as the width, it needs to be this width minus the depth of your tenon. So we know that our tenon is a 1/2 inch shorter than, or a 1/2 inch smaller than the width of this. So it's 2 inches and we put a 1/2 inch groove. So that's 1.5 inches times 2 is 3 inches. So this minus 3 inches. So we're at like 14 3/8 minus 3 inches, which is 11 3/8. So we need it to be 37 7/8 by 14 or by 11 3/8. We now have our birch plywood panel cut, and the last thing that we need to do before we actually make the door and glue it all together is just to do a dry fit. So we're gonna make sure our panel fits in the groove correctly, everything becomes square, all the measurements are correct, that sort of stuff. And I believe we are good to go, but we're just, like I said, gonna double check. You don't wanna have your glue bottle out and start getting squeezed out and drips and runs everywhere until you know for sure that everything's going to work correctly. So, and there we go. It's loose right now, of course. I always make everything just a little bit bigger just to allow for wood movement. But we're going to put a dab of glue throughout here, and then we're going to glue this thing together, and that will be our door, and it'll be ready to install. So let's glue. So now the glue up is done and we're just waiting on it to dry. You can see the door here. Once this glue dries, I'm gonna let it dry for probably an hour at least till I take it out of the clamps. But after it's done, we'll be ready to install the hardware, including the pulls and the hinges. That's gonna be a separate video. If you did not catch my last video on making the cabinet, you can check that out, and I'll show you installing the hardware and the hinges. And then be sure to tune in next week for the cabinet pull. I have a special way to do that with a special tool that I don't think you're going to want to miss. So be sure to check that out. But for this video, this is going to wrap it up. You can find tips and tricks on my website along with other projects at www.rockyriverwoodworks.com. You can also see behind the scenes pictures, and I post daily on Instagram at RockyRiverWW. That's all for this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Nick Harrison with Rocky River Woodworks. Thank you for watching.